Welcome aboard! We will be your guides during this magical journey into the movies. It's the perfect job for us because we love the movies. It's showtime! Ready when you are, CB.
Action!
Welcome to Monoreel Radio, episode number 362. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jackie.
And we're here this week to review and discuss the Fantastic Four First Steps.
So I want to get into the Fantastic Four lineage, if you will.
Yeah.
Because I had never seen any of them prior to this iteration that we're about to discuss.
Okay.
And I know that you have, but it got me thinking quite a bit. The first one came out at a time when they were really starting to push the superhero films, right? Like, Batman was sort of the only game in town. And I'm not even talking about, like, we're not even at Dark Knight yet. We're talking all the way back to 2005.
Yeah.
And Sony had done Spider-Man, directed by Sam Raimi. Then you got Fox doing the X-Men. So this was sort of the next horse that they wanted to bet on as far as creating a superhero franchise. And if you look at the casting, you know, Jessica Alba, Chris Evans, Michael Chiklis, you know, really big names at the time. It's a sexy cast. They played it kind of in their 20s, around that age, which was sort of what they were doing with X-Men. They released the sequel and then it sort of peters out, right? And I think a lot of that was because of the Disney acquisition of Marvel. So then we try again, 10 years later, it's 2015. You're years removed from the first Iron Man. You're through most of the Thor and Captain America trilogies. We've gotten Avengers under our belt, maybe 2 at this point. And they play it as a younger, almost like a teenage movie. It's got a very Hackers vibe. Tonally, it sort of feels like what they were trying to do with the New Mutants. I know that now because I have watched all of them leading into our review because I got curious and I really wanted to do my homework because I knew that you had seen them. So I guess that's sort of my question for you is, having watched them and enjoying them as far as I know, what did you think when you saw this concept art from Marvel and then the trailer drop with this production design and the retro future tone that they were going with this?
So it's a very loaded question, so I'm going to try to break it down.
I know. I thought a lot about this.
Well, no, but it's a good question. So before I answer that, let me rewind back. I didn't grow up with Fantastic Four the way I did with Batman and Superman and to a lesser extent Spider-Man. But I saw the 2005 Fantastic Four movie at a drive-in movie theater down here my freshman year of college. And most of us that went were from Long Island going to school in Florida. And the fact that we could find a drive-in movie theater, and it was like 45 minutes away, it wasn't that close, but the fact that we could find a drive-in movie theater was exciting in and of itself. If I remember correctly, I don't even think we knew what was playing. I think we just drove there and picked something. And it happened to be that was what all of us were interested in seeing. And 2005 was very, very different when you think about superhero movies and comic book movies. Batman Begins very much changed the game.
Absolutely.
It made superhero films dark. It made them gritty. And like Hollywood tends to do, everybody jumps on the trend because they're trying to reinvent Batman Begins and then later The Dark Knight.
You're trying to catch that lightning in a bottle again.
And I feel like a modern audience may watch that 2005 Fantastic Four movie and they may think that it's ridiculous.
Modern audience here can confirm.
And here's the thing. Tonally, that movie is different. Tonally, that was the norm when it came to superhero movies back in 2005. And I watched it and I enjoyed it an awful lot. And then The Rise of the Silver Surfer came out, and I enjoyed that. Not as much as the first film. And I went back and I watched them both recently in preparation of this discussion, and while there are certain elements of the first film that don't really hold up, and that's partly because it is a little silly. On the other hand, there's a part of me that looks at it from a nostalgic perspective, and I watch it with a fond memory. I have a fond memory of spending the night at my friends at the movie theater with my friends, and I think it was the last time I was at like a traditional drive-in, not like during COVID, right, where they were doing like drive-in movie at the beach, and it was just something everybody had on DVD, but they were getting everybody together, right? Like it was a fun night, a fond memory, in a movie that, you know, when I'm 19 years old, that's the kind of superhero movie I wanted to watch. And I think it was exciting for me because I wasn't all that familiar with the characters, but it got me excited about the Fantastic Four. Because frankly, I really loved the casting. And for as kind of silly as it was, I feel like you can sort of get away with that with the Fantastic Four because they are very much a product of their time, I think. And I think that's why it's been so hard for modern audiences to really like come to grips with what the Fantastic Four is. The 2015 version, the cast is absolutely stacked.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Michael B. Jordan playing the Human Torch. You've got Miles Teller. You've got Kate Mara.
Yes, Kate. I was going to say Rooney, but no, Kate is correct.
It is an absolutely stacked cast. The problem with that movie is they were 10 years too old. Or 10 years too young, I should say. If the movie came out now, if they had taken that cast and put them in a modern version of the Fantastic Four today, I think my opinion of it would be a little different. I think that I probably would say that cast today would have me more excited than the cast that we got. Now let's talk about the cast that we had, because me leading up to this was all in service of answering your question. I was excited to see that they set it in the 1960s. Is basically what it's supposed to be, right? Because I feel like this franchise lends itself well to an innocent, sort of cheesy, a little hokey, very innocent time period when it comes to very primitive, for the most part, Marvel comics, right? With that said, I was not at all very excited about this cast because I love The Mandalorian and I really like Pedro Pascal. I did not think he was going to be right for this role. Vanessa Kirby's great. I don't know an awful lot about her. You know, and then we've got Eddie from Stranger Things is in this.
Right.
So it's...
I think everybody collectively raised their eyebrow over that one.
Yeah. I just didn't know. Yes, Walt, I'm getting there. I just didn't know if it was gonna work. I think that the age range, on paper at least, is... I think it's too wide. I felt that what made the Fantastic Four so great in even that 2015 iteration is they are sort of the same age, and they all sort of came up together. Obviously, Sue and Johnny are brother and sister. Ben and Reed are very close friends. We don't need to see Bruce and Martha Wayne get shot again, right? Like, we don't need to watch them become the Fantastic Four because we've seen it twice already. What I think was an interesting choice, and you could sort of see this in the trailers and in the poster art and the way that they were talking about it, they're dropping us in the middle of a timeline. They're assuming you know what happened to them. I don't know if that necessarily works because I think the age range is being so wide. I think it just leads to too many questions. Why are they together? How did we get together? And like, this is all in the trailer and the poster art. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's exactly what happens in the movie. We're going to get to the film in a few minutes, but I think what excited me about this was the timeline and the costumes, and that was about as far as I was excited.
Well, that's why I wanted to get your take on this, because I went in knowing less than nothing. I knew Chris Evans was in Fantastic Four at one point, and that was it. That was totally it. Until Deadpool and Wolverine, I did not even know that he was Johnny Flame, you know? So I think not knowing anything definitely helped me to enjoy this for what it is, not looking at it in terms of comparing and contrasting. I also think I have a totally different opinion because this was a lot to do in one sitting. I watched all 3 of the original live actions in one weekend. So it was a lot. And to your point, to see the accident in space play out twice in a row, I was like, all right, I'm over this already. But I think the biggest surprise for me, I was thinking that building up to Victor Von Doom in our current MCU was a pivot away from Kang no longer being the big bad. And obviously, let's just call it what it is. I say this lovingly. It is stunt casting to get RDJ back into the Marvel universe. But that was the biggest surprise for me watching the earlier versions, was that Victor was baked in with them. It happened to him too. So that was truly a surprise. And it has certainly piqued my curiosity for what is to come.
Well, are we happy that they dropped us in the middle of a timeline? Do they do a good enough job getting us caught up? And how does this compare to the previous iterations of the Fantastic Four? That, on top of many other things, is what we are here to discuss today.
That is the longest pre-show we have ever done. This episode is sponsored by Where in the Park. Our friends at Where in the Park make seek and find card games designed to play in the theme parks and turn your day into an interactive adventure. Game packs come with a deck of cards, each with an image on it that is hidden somewhere in the theming of the park, helping you to discover details you've probably walked past 100 times. Where in the Park game packs will spark curiosity, encourage connection, and make every visit to the parks even more memorable. Visit monoreelradio.com and click on our affiliate link to purchase your game packs at a discount.
Reed Richards and Sue Storm have learned that Sue is pregnant with their first child. While Sue is not worried about the child having powers, Reed is very concerned for the baby's future. We learn how a cosmic storm altered their DNA along with Sue's brother Johnny and their friend Ben. The group became heroes and pop culture icons as the Fantastic Four. As they prepare for the baby's arrival, Reed continues to work on teleportation while receiving and recording transmissions from space. Johnny studies the transmissions in order to translate and understand them. One night, the Silver Surfer arrives and warns that Earth is marked for death, as it is about to be consumed by the Devourer Galactus. As she escapes, Johnny pursues her, and she speaks to him in her native language. The group learns that Galactus has destroyed 5 targeted planets and that she was at all of them, proving that the threat is in fact real. They decide to launch into space to intercept Galactus before he comes to Earth. Meanwhile, Johnny continues to study her language to learn what she said. They go to space and travel faster than light, tracking the path of the Silver Surfer. They see a planet get destroyed and their ship gets pulled in and scanned by Galactus. The Surfer arrives and informs them that they should not have come and that Galactus will see them. We also learn that it is the Surfer, not Galactus, who chooses the planets that are destroyed, and that the blessing that she gave to Johnny in her language meant die with yours. Galactus tells them that their unborn child hungers, and his future is Galactus's throne. He offers to spare the planet Earth in exchange for the baby. They refuse, and he promises to destroy the world while their son watches. Sue goes into labor as Johnny attacks Galactus before escaping. Sue gives birth on the ship. However, the good news doesn't last for long as they break the news to the entire world that they could not stop Galactus as they would not give up their son, Franklin, upsetting the media and the general public. Meanwhile, despite the Surfer wanting to show mercy for the child, Galactus explains that he needs the child to take his place so that he can finally rest. Reed begins to panic as he cannot find an immediate answer to their problem as chaos breaks out globally. Sue takes Franklin to a protest outside of their home at the Baxter Building and promises to fight and defeat Galactus. Reed decides to use his teleportation technology to move the Earth to a new place where Galactus can't find it. The world assembles to build teleportation bridges globally to help the effort. They get the bridges online. However, the Surfer arrives and starts to destroy them. Johnny distracts her and starts playing space transmissions in her language that she now understands and that he was able to translate. He tells her that her people were thanking her for what she had done. She had offered to help Galactus to spare her planet and her family. He also plays the messages of death from the planets that she led him to. She tells Johnny to give up the child. He offers himself instead, but she says it needs to be Franklin. She also tells them to flee with the child before Galactus destroys Earth. Reed realizes that they need to bring Galactus to Earth so that they can route the power through the remaining bridges, particularly the one in Times Square, to transport Galactus to the far end of the universe. Sue tells them that they need to use Franklin as bait, and Reed confirms it, that he confirms it is the only plan, basically upsetting everybody. To spare innocent lives upon his arrival, Sue invites Harvey Elder of Subterranea to the building and gets him to help evacuate all of the innocent lives and hide them underground. Galactus arrives and locates the baby underneath the teleportation bridge. As he arrives, he is attacked by the group, who also switches Franklin out with an empty baby carrier. However, Galactus quickly realizes this and moves to the Baxter Building to take the child. He gets the baby, but Sue uses her power to push Galactus into the bridge that Johnny opens while Reed successfully rescues Franklin. Sue uses all of her energy and dies as the Surfer pushes Galactus through the portal. Franklin, however, uses his power to revive his mother, and we're done. That's basically how the movie ends.
Worth noting, a rare Marvel that were able to do the plot full out and not linearly, scene by scene, as we go along.
I'm not complaining about it. Here's the thing. Off the rip, that is something that is completely different from not all, but a lot of Marvel movies.
It's pared down a bit.
And I'm okay with that because not everything needs to be a 2-hour and 40-minute epic whatever. Not everything needs to be going into the multiverse. Not everything needs to be going into the quantum realm. There are movies like Ant-Man where I'm fine doing that. You don't need to do it here.
Honestly, that's what I thought it was going to be when they established that they were not on the 626 timeline. I thought there was going to be quite a bit of jumping in and out, which after the post-credit scene of Thunderbolts, I think we're going to start getting that down the road. But let's talk about what is here. I love this hyper-stylized title card. Marvel is still unmatched when it comes to production design overall and details like this.
Yeah. And I love the futuristic past that never was. You know, it's very Epcot in that way.
Or very Tomorrowland.
Yeah. And I also appreciated what they were doing in making them a pop culture icon group, and that they were like a thing of the 60s with the toys and the cartoon. It's fun, especially when you think back to the '05 version where Johnny sort of takes lead, because let's just call it what it is. Johnny's trying to get girls. So he decides he's going to be the leader of this group. Let's be famous. Let's get rich. Let's use our powers. So I like that there is some continuity in that. But here's the thing. The 2015 version of the Fantastic Four is a complete departure from what the Fantastic Four actually is. So, you have to look at the '05 version of the movie to see the origin story. This movie that we're talking about now came out in 2025. It is 20 years later. And it is, while not the same characters and not the same timeline, it's a direct connection to the actual source material. When you go 20 years, I don't think you can just drop us in the middle of a story and go, oh, and by the way, here's what happened, and here's why they are who they are. Now on with the story.
Well, yes and no. And this goes back to what I was talking about, when I had asked you your thoughts. We've done every other iteration. We've done the age 20 Fantastic Four. We've done the teen Fantastic Four. Like, where do you go from here? I thought it was pretty smart that they were fully established. And again, not having seen the other two, I actually appreciate what they did here to pay homage to the comics and get that in, hit fast forward on the origin story, as opposed to using the opening credits to ramp through that with very little context. I actually think it was a brilliant choice to channel it through this talk show, the Ted Gilbert Show, because not only do you have that sort of media frenzy element, but you're not channeling that through Johnny. You're instead making the media a character, which is sort of how we're going to go on this journey as the audience. And I think all of that lends to aging this movie up a little bit. Speaking of aging up, we did skip past the opening sequence, and I think that really tells you what you're getting more than anything else. I honestly thought it was a little bit off-putting to start with a bathroom scene, especially when Sue is sitting there on the toilet. But it establishes Reed and Sue as a real couple, especially now having seen the earlier iterations of it. They did the Jessica Alba, are they or aren't they going to get together? And that got really old really fast. Then seeing the relationship try to get off the ground as teens, it was sort of nice to see this established, grounded relationship. But what this really does more than anything else is sets the tone that Sue has to do everything around here. We're going to see her save the day on multiple occasions, but the woman can't even use the bathroom for 5 minutes without being called upon to find something. That would have been exasperating in and of itself, let alone that it's revealed that she's waiting on a pregnancy test to finish.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I said before, we don't need to see Bruce and Martha get shot again, right?
Agreed.
But, I mean, this is a little bit different. There's only been, prior to this, 3 other Fantastic Four movies. One you rule out because it's a sequel.
Sure.
And the other 2 tell completely different origin stories. So the fact is, the other thing, Fantastic Four, it's not like Batman. People aren't as well versed in the source material that is Fantastic Four the way they are with Batman. So I don't know. I feel like when you've gone this long in between introducing who these characters are, yes, I think we're sort of over the origin story, but I just don't think that the Fantastic Four are well known enough. And certainly, to repeat myself for the umpteenth time, which I love to do on this show, it's been too long since we saw the origin story, like the actual origin story. So I feel like setting them up, the movie opening with her taking a pregnancy test, it's not like we've seen them in other films in the MCU, right? The previous 3 films don't count. They're not on the timeline because they were Fox. They weren't, right? They weren't Disney.
Yeah, it's exactly what I said. It's what X-Men has fallen victim to.
But like in Multiverse of Madness, albeit not this Reed Richards, we've seen a Reed Richards.
Very good point.
So, like, I mean, we don't know who they are. Like like an audience that doesn't follow the Fantastic Four, that hadn't previously seen them, you are meeting these characters. Literally, you are meeting them in the MCU for the first time. I just find it so odd that you're introducing them in a major life event when you have to assume nobody knows who they are. You can't just assume everybody knows who they are when we've never seen them before. And the really interesting thing is, your first film with them in the MCU was partly the plot of what was going to be the third Fantastic Four movie, because Jessica Alba specifically wanted to do in the third movie, bringing Franklin into it. So, like, that was going to be the third. We're doing it off the road. We're doing it we're doing 3 minutes into the movie.
You are. You're cramming what would have been the whole trilogy into this, because Rise of Silver Surfer was the sequel.
Right.
So they're all jam-packed into the one. But that's where, and again, I knew nothing. I was totally green going in. All I'm seeing is this couple that has clearly struggled to get pregnant, and now they are. It totally just grounds the film because I don't need to know anything else about them. And I think, we have talked a lot about the Marvel fatigue of it all. Forget about the Fantastic Four origin story. I don't know that I needed to see another film in which we see the reluctant call to action of, I have this power now. I got bit by a radioactive spider. I have a super suit. I have to, answer a call that's bigger than myself. I don't know that we needed to see that necessarily, because then you're going to see the 4 points of view from each character and they're going to argue things out. Whereas now, they're obviously established, they're older, we're going to see the arguments and the bickering come through as a family. And we sort of do get a taste of that where they do the Sunday dinner scene where the pregnancy is revealed. I do like that we get this little slice of life moment. I like that despite what they've been through, they still prioritize their family time. The only thing, though, that I bump on is that this just doesn't land for me the same way that the Avengers do in the scenes where they take a break from the action and let it breathe and give you the slice of life moment. The chosen family lands harder for me.
Because you don't know anything about these characters.
That's true. It's different because the Avengers, and even with Guardians too, right? You're seeing the bond develop, but it does sort of feel like they're really trying to sell you here. I think that's what I'm bumping on, is that we do Sunday dinner and it's cute, and one wants to cook the sauce this way and the other wants to cook it that way, and oh, here's Herbie, and it does feel very forced in a way that we just have to accept it. And that's where I guess I would agree with you on just landing here where we are.
Right. So the pregnancy, it becomes a big thing. It's international news, right? The most relatable thing in this movie is, at first, Reed's like over cautious, over analyzed, overthought baby prep. But unfortunately, it doesn't come off by the end. It's not over cautious. It just comes off as arrogant. It comes off like, no, I know what's best, because I'm Reed Richards and I'm the smartest person in this room.
It was also very much that he did the exact thing that we expected him to do, right? I mean, I love that when she first tells him, it is just straight emotion. We do get to see the human behind the big brain. And he is just acting like a first-time father. And then Ben later jokes with him, I'm surprised you're not freaking out, or something to that effect. And he's like, no, I have that scheduled for later. So you're right. During this baby prep montage, this is where he feels like he's prepping to be a dad, because he's doing everything but the emotional aspects of it. Like, he's trying to baby-proof the world, but he won't even put the crib together. He outsources that to the robot,
Right.
Meanwhile, Sue's giving herself a sonogram.
Yep.
She's literally doing the Lord's work, and he can't even be bothered to put the crib together. And that's the thing, right? I mean, they have Herbie. He is a member of the family. I'm not knocking him because he's adorable and he must be protected at all costs. But this is supposed to be a bonding thing where, the mother is doing the work of carrying the child. This is where you do your part to bond with your child, because you don't have that literal connection to it. This is, and I know in your mind, this is what you're supposed to be doing because you're trying to protect everything. But this takes the turn of you're behaving exactly as expected. What I do like, though, is the little Easter egg when Reed is talking about like all the problems that he solved, and he's like, oh, I checked out the wizards in Gramercy. If I'm not mistaken, that's a wink and a nod to Doctor Strange. So are we to believe that Strange is also jumping through universes at this point?
I mean, we know that he can travel the timeline, so I guess so. But if that's also where they are, I mean, I don't think they're not moving their little headquarters around. So, I mean, look, my big problem here, I'm just going to get this out of the way. You know what? I'm jumping. I don't care. I don't like Pedro Pascal in this role. That's it. I just don't. I don't like Pedro Pascal in this role. I have to say it now. I usually save this for later. I can't get through this review without just saying it now.
Please direct all emails, monoreelradio@gmail.com. Attention, Sean.
I'm just saying, I think the problem with this character is that he's written a very certain way. It's written a very different way than we've seen Reed Richards in the past. And Pedro Pascal's a phenomenal actor, but he doesn't have the lightheartedness to pull this off without it just being arrogant. Because there are moments in this movie where he cares so much about making sure that everything is child-proofed and we need to be prepared and we need to do this. But then it's like, he kind of like shirks his responsibilities onto Herbie because he's like, it's building a crib. Anybody can do that. Only I can build this. And it's just like, he doesn't say, like, it's not coming off as tongue-in-cheek. That's the thing. Like, I don't buy that he's saying that as a joke. I feel like he's saying that because he believes it. And there's just, there's a lot of charm in the family element. There's a lot of charm in Reed Richards in general that we've completely thrown away. Like, Reed Richards, to me, is always sort of the socially awkward, kind of goofy science nerd, and this guy comes off with a god complex. And to me, that's not what Reed Richards is. There's a lack of innocence here, and I know that you're going to channel, because you do channel all of the comedy through Ben and Johnny.
All of it.
All of it. That's the thing. It's all of it is through them.
They are doing, no pun intended, some heavy lifting.
So there's just something about this entire thing that just falls on its face early, and it, to me, it only gets worse as the movie goes on.
I think it needed more of like the Miles Teller version of Reed Richards. I'm not saying that that's the best one, but it lost the quality of, yes, he's brilliant, but he's still very insecure and very appreciative of the relationship he has with Sue, that somebody like Sue would look his way. You know, I think the earliest version, it's definitely tropey because they're trying to lean into the you know, you landed Jessica Alba and you're blowing it, dude. Of it all, I think the focus is way too much on the casting there. But to meet somewhere in the middle, you know, you want to give him a little bit of cocky arrogance, that's fine, but you do have to pull the reins back so he doesn't come off like Tony. But there does need to be a certain insecurity at the heart of it all. And here, I think that insecurity is a pivot towards just being a new father and the jitters that come along with that. I know we've spent a lot of time on setup here, right? But this film wastes no time getting into the action because we get the Silver Surfer within, 10 minutes of screen time? It happens pretty quickly. And she looks freaking incredible. I think this was a brilliant casting choice with Julia Garner. I think after having so many other iterations, well, it's really just the one because it was just the sequel with the Silver Surfer. But I think the gender swap was pretty refreshing, especially with the backstory that they give her.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, she works. She brings like a very ominous presence, you know, because when you think about Rise of the Silver Surfer, the 2007 version, Lawrence Fishburne voices him. Doug Jones was the actual model for the actor. Lawrence Fishburne was very good, but he didn't come off as scary. Julia Garner is terrifying. And when you think about what it is that she's doing, she's selecting planets for extinction. You should be terrifying. She pulls it off.
I think that there's such a great balance because, again, having not seen Rise of the Silver Surfer before this, it was that one line when they say, what does Galactus wants? And she says, he doesn't want, he feeds. Tells you everything that you need to know about her. You know it's her that's sort of the puppet master, and she's making the really horrible decisions and destroying planets. But it's so interesting that you say that she's ominous, because my note here is that Johnny does such a horrendous job of describing her tone when he says that he spoke to her. And he says that she was, I think he says that she was warm. And you're saying ominous. I feel like it's almost more like a melancholy, because she knows what she's doing is horrible, but she has no choice. Like, you feel how handcuffed she is. And I think that rings true crystal clear in her delivery, but that's also where it's such a brilliant casting choice, because a lesser actress would be playing this as a straight villain. You can tell that she's tortured by what she's doing immediately. So then it's decided, obviously, that they're going to go back into space to figure out what happened. I really like the space prep, because there's a really good juxtaposition of the work life, family life aspect of it. Because everybody knows their roles, everybody knows what they have to do, but they're also still very much looking out for each other and caring for each other.
Well, kind of.
Well, yeah, because they're going to just keep putting Sue in peril.
This is my biggest issue with this movie, other than the casting of Reed Richards. Reed Richards is so concerned the entire pregnancy, and then even after Franklin is born, what future is in store for my child? Is my child going to have powers? Is he going to be mutated? Will he have a normal life? Will he also, Sue, go do this thing. It may kill you while you're pregnant, but go, do it. Over and over and over again.
Not to mention, Reed is so guilt-ridden over the incident, especially when it comes to what happened to Ben, which I think they handle brilliantly with his relationship with Rachel, that he clearly wants to have someone in his life, but he's not capable. I think that this is probably the best iteration of Ben out of all three movies. But yeah, Reed feels so bad about that. He decides to put them all in peril again. Forget that you've put your unborn child and pregnant wife into space to defeat an entity or try and defeat an entity that you have no idea what it is. Your brilliant escape route is to pull them into a black hole or slingshot around it so that it sucks in the Silver Surfer and not you.
Also, they had to do that because they didn't have enough fuel to get home. He is sitting there talking about how it's his fault because he couldn't calculate the solar storm or whatever it is that you want to call it. He was so upset he couldn't calculate that, but he didn't put enough gas in the tank. I think they said they were in space for like 27 days. You didn't have enough fuel to get there and back with your pregnant wife on board, who was she's days away from giving birth. Yeah, but we're going to go up in a ship. So, like, Reed Richards, I'm sorry, but if you've done one thing well, it's proven that you are not a very good scientist.
No, and like, of course Sue goes into labor in this scene, right? I mean, you know it's coming.
Yeah.
Forget timeline-wise of how far along her pregnancy is. You just know that they're going to resort to that to raise the stakes in this moment. I mean, I get what they're trying to do as far as the character moment for Reed to make him choose. Are you going to be the leader of the team now? Are you going to be the scientist, or are you going to be the father? The only thing that works for me in this scene, because there's so much that doesn't, starting with, oh, by the way, Sue, I realize you're in labor, but we need to go invisible. Could you handle that?
It's my favorite bad part of the movie. It's my favorite stupid part of this entire
thing. And that's what I'm saying. This is a great reflection of how women are treated in general. Of, by the way, you're juggling 50 million things. One of them being literally giving birth. But could you just handle this one more thing for me? What makes it even worse is that he says after your next contraction. I understand what they're trying to do by not making him come off as a total jerk and asking for too much in the moment, which is exactly what I'm calling you out on. But they should have given the line to Vanessa Kirby. Like, give her the exasperated, sarcastic, yeah, I'll get right on that after my next contraction.
Because Jessica Alba could have pulled that off and it would have been hysterical.
I mean, I'm not even saying that you have to play it for comedy, but I'm saying acknowledge the fact that she realizes that she has to bear all of the responsibility by keeping these three guys in line. And I mean, like, that's part of her role. Like, even before she is pregnant with Franklin, it's the maternal role that she's playing, right? But like, let her have that one. Let her be exhausted. There's like 3 male writers on this film and 1 female, and this is where it really badly shows. I will say, though, the best part about this sequence, even though it's so overdone and so over the top, is Vanessa Kirby's performance. Even though they didn't give her that line, the way that she kicks her pants off because there's 0 gravity and she basically just gets it done on her own. She's incredible. Birth scenes for me, I always think that they're just badly acted and over the top. I think she absolutely nailed it. The other thing that I think they got right, I really like what they're doing with Galactus. I know that Galactus, now having seen all of them, this is not the first we've heard of him when it comes to the Fantastic Four. But I think with where Marvel is at right now, we saw the Celestials in Eternals. And then they kind of petered out because obviously Eternals was going nowhere. And then, we see Nowhere in the head of a Celestial, which you can just leave it at that. We don't really need to do anything with it. And then they sort of circle them back around in Captain America: Brave New World. I like that we aren't necessarily building to a big bad with that. Or, I mean, we don't know that they're bad necessarily, but I like how they keep kind of popping in and out, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like a whole thing that we're building to,
Yeah. Well, now we're back on Earth, right?
The media is freaking insufferable.
Yeah, it's very accurate.
It is. It is. That you said that Reed was the most realistic part of the film. I think it's the media here. And even though, like I said, that's supposed to be our point of view as the audience, this is holding up a mirror to society. She literally just gave birth. And I realize, there's no security team as they're walking back in to the press junket. You don't really need that because you have been there and everybody has powers, and you don't necessarily need to protect Sue. But like, I don't know, I thought maybe they would shield Franklin from the public eye more. What kills me though, why show all of the cards? Why tell the media what Galactus wants? Why not buy yourself a little bit of time? That was just dumb.
Because how else do you get the very manufactured drama in the next scene when Reed says to Sue, the public has a problem. They have an answer. It's real. It's accessible. And she's like, what are you saying? And he's like, well, I'm not saying anything. And she immediately goes into, you're thinking of giving our child away. No, What he did was literally define what the general public's reaction is, which is, well, if you just give him the kid and we all survive, so just do it. He literally just defined natural reaction to public outrage. Here is a problem. The problem is this devourer wants to kill us and our existence. The solve is he takes the kid. The kid is here. We don't have to go get the child is here. He's not saying he agrees with it. He's saying this is why they are reacting this way. What he's doing, the one smart thing that Reed does here, all he's doing is explaining the human condition and why to them, in their hysteria, this seems like it makes sense. He's not saying he agrees. It's all in service of having them argue about it.
You're absolutely right that all Reed is doing is pointing out the public's perspective. But what he says is there's a mathematical, ethical, and available solution.
Right.
And even though he is stating that that's what the public's point of view is, I think it's the words that he chose that Sue is upset about. So I actually think he got what was coming to him. And then, we get more media frenzy. This just reflects society's treatment of new mothers as a whole, because she is how many weeks postpartum and they're just hounding her. What's amazing to me is that then she goes to face the public. And again, this is where it's like, well, Sue to the rescue. She's got to take care of business for everybody. She's not afraid to take the baby out in public for fear that someone's going to snatch it and give Galactus what he wants. She confronts them, and her speech is absolutely incredible. I love that she parallels it to her own mother, who is no longer with her. And she says, my mom always said, Susie, I would move heaven and earth for you, which again, you're giving Reed the solution because that's what sparks his idea. The only thing I don't love about this is that she says, I'm not going to sacrifice my child for the world, but I'm not going to sacrifice the world for my child. She really had to spell that out. That's what, I appreciate how they're trying to use the media as a character, but they dumb it down so much that she needed to say it. I mean, the statement is very eloquent, but at the same time, it's just bad writing because it panders to pointing out the obvious.
Well, how about this? You want to talk about questionable writing. Galactus's ship moves so fast that it arrives not in the galaxy, not in the universe. And you're talking about vast things, right? It arrives within the solar system. Within a day or two of them returning back to Earth. And yet somehow, some way, he now moves slow enough where the entire planet globally in the 1960s magically has all of the parts and all of the manpower to build teleportation bridges within what is seemingly a week.
Was it that quickly? Was it 2 days?
2 or 3 days. He was back almost immediately. But then it took him so long to get from Jupiter to Earth.
I thought there was a little bit more passage of time because they do what's like the third or fourth montage at this point. I have to say though, it does feel very much like what I love so much about Captain America, where they do the USO medley and every bullet or every bond is a bullet in the barrel of your best guy's gun. It did feel a little bit like that when they do, the Earth's call to action. So I did kind of like that part, but I liked it so much. I was distracted by how unrealistic the time frame is here. What I do really like also is that Johnny gets the opportunity to step up in this moment. I love how he was ready with this backup plan to use Shalaba's words against her, because he remembered that he had this audio and he was able to translate based on the little words that she said to him. You know, and I kind of like that he sticks it to Reed a little bit, that you're not the only one with a big brain that can figure stuff out. And I think it's a sort of redeeming element for the character, because yes, they do still lean into the flirty Johnny, not so much the womanizer Johnny like the Chris Evans version, but they give him a lot more to do here.
Yeah. Frankly, I think Johnny might be the best character in the entire movie. I mean, Sue is great, but there's just something about him, and I think it's what you just pointed out, right? He exceeds expectations. Sue does what you expect her to do, because
who else is going to do it?
Well, yeah, and that's partly because, you know, Reed is written like such a bozo, but you don't expect Johnny to do that, to do what he does, because I think, you know, other iterations of Johnny, whether the Michael B. Jordan or the Chris Evans, they were very arrogant. This one is, but he isn't at the same time. So they sort of plus him up, but it also just could be that the rest of the cast at times is so poorly written that he just seems better than he is.
Oh, see, I don't think Michael B. Jordan was written as arrogant at all. I thought he was... I loved his portrayal.
I'm not saying I didn't, but he was arrogant. He was arrogant as all hell in that movie.
I think it's just, I don't know. I think that's what Michael B. brings to a role. He's always got that little bit of cockiness, but I mean, he can have it. He's so charismatic and he's so good looking. He can do whatever he wants. But yeah, I wouldn't say that he was arrogant. But to circle it back around to this version of Johnny, he makes, or he's willing to at least make the ultimate sacrifice twice.
Yes.
Once when he goes up into space to try and catch her, and then, you know, tell Franklin Uncle Johnny loves it. Like, damn, that's a powerful certainly more than I was expecting when they made this casting announcement.
Yeah, let's talk about this whole thing, right? Have you ever seen a plan like thwarted so quickly?
No. Like, part of me likes that it gets straight to the point. You know, they didn't drag it out unnecessarily. We didn't see the Earth. I love the plan. I like how the bridge comes back around. I think part of that was budgetary, because to pull this off in VFX was going to be a lot. And I appreciate that you spared us that, because Galactus looks so great, especially when he descends upon Manhattan. But just based on the timing of it all, we're getting into the third act. You know this plan isn't going to work, right? There has to be something else that trips it up. This is like screenwriting 101. And what we know from this script so far, because it's not great at times,
101.
It's very much 101. So I guess what I'm saying is there was no need to drag this on, and I appreciate them cutting right to the chase. Like, is it jarring that it's over instantaneously, that we don't even get to see, you know, they're on the phone with London and Germany and we don't even get cutaways. We just see them in the control room. So like, they really blow past, like, okay, it's not going to work. Let's just get Galactus on the island.
But Galactus is so kind that as a devourer, he gives them so much time to scheme a new idea.
Yeah, that didn't work for me at all. It's so it reminds me of like a Scooby-Doo villain or something. Like, I'll be here to haunt you in 3 more days. You know, just something really silly like, or like.
It's like Dr. Claw. I'll get you next time, Gadget. And then it comes back a week later.
Yeah, or I was going to say like a Gru or something that's always plotting, but they're just so bad at it. They don't even realize that what they're doing is buying you time. They're just saying the things, but they're not actually doing them. Yeah. The only payoff in that is when they decide that they're going to utilize the one bridge that is left in the middle of Times Square. You get this walk through the snow. And again, they're trying to humanize Reed and Sue as a real couple. So beautifully shot here. It's a really nice scene. It's very sweet. It lets it breathe a little bit. But, you know, is it worth it for the nonsense of I'll be back in 3 days? Gear up. No. Like he could have, you're a celestial. You are 12 times the size of, forget even people. You're 5 times as tall as the tallest skyscraper. You could have got Franklin 4 times over by now.
Well, no. This very large celestial being that eats planets, we're just going to swap the baby carrier and he's not gonna know. Which is a great plan when you have a car that can be invisible. Except when you choose for the flying car that can be invisible to drive on the ground in plain sight at the feet of the monster. What are we doing here?
The only thing that I like about this ending is that Subterranea comes back into play when they do the mass evacuation and Mole Man gets to have his redemption arc.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's just the TMNT fan in me. Give me a scene underground. I love it. I absolutely love it. But again, that was a smart choice in that you've eliminated the media frenzy at this point because you had to take the crowds out. So at least they're cutting back and forth and they're still giving us that POV of, you know, people of Earth. But circling around to what you said about the car. Yeah, they take Sue out again. She's down for the count and the other 3 bozos can't get it done. So now everybody's out and what happens? Oh, Sue, again, weeks postpartum, has to come in and clean up the mess that they made. And she's willing, I mean, like, yes, okay, I'll give it to Johnny because he is willing to sacrifice himself. But she knows this is taking her out. She knows this is her dying act. She knows this is too much for her, but she's got to do it to save Franklin. And then she has to remind them to save Franklin because they're all like, whoa, look at Sue. Like, yes, look at her.
Right.
Look at what she's doing. And all you 3 can do is stand there with your mouths hanging open. Go do something, anything. And then Reed finally comes to the party. We finally see him get to use his power.
Right.
And actually, like, move.
Which is more than we see Miles Teller do, by the way.
Fair. Well, it's a little bit different because you're building to that the entire, well, he disappears for half the movie.
Yeah.
But he's also learning to use his powers. Here, we've only seen Reed use his powers in the beginning where he's trying to take on the apes. Every other time there is conflict, he freezes in place. I got to figure it out. Like, finally, you spring into action. And we actually get to see you do something. But not without Sue.
Or the Silver Surfer. Because the Silver Surfer is what ultimately pushes him through that portal.
I really liked that they brought her back around and they let her redeem herself. Especially because, you know, I mean, it's a big theme of this film is the maternal instinct of it all, and she very much parallels what Sue is doing.
Right.
Although she's got a lot more than just saving her children by eliminating Galactus. Like, that was part of the deal. You leave my planet, you leave my family alone, I will find you other planets to feed on. It's not just that she wants him out of the picture for her own safety and the safety of her family, if they're even still, alive at this point, because who knows how long she's been at this. It's that she has regret for what she's done.
Well,
so it's a great...
No kidding.
I was just going to say, for all the characters, it's probably the best character arc. That she's the one who makes the sacrifice.
Yeah.
And then again, not having seen it, I really thought we were losing Sue here. I thought that she was truly well, you know why? Because I forgot that Franklin had the powers, and that ultimately, like, we did technically lose her. He brings her back,
which was all in service of showing that he has powers. Which we already know because Galactus told us he has them.
So then let me ask you something. If Franklin has powers, did we really need a car seat? And this whole bit, which reinforces the idea that these three are bozos because they can't even get the seatbelt through. On Reed's own design.
Yeah. We don't need a lot of things that happened in this movie. Frankly, I mean, we're going to get to the cast in a minute. I'm at the point now where, like, forget certain elements. We just didn't need this movie at all. That's kind of where I'm leaning at this point. I can't believe this is almost unprecedented. I have seen movies that I didn't love the first time through, and maybe the next couple of times I watched it, I liked them less because more stood out to me. I'm disliking this movie more just in this conversation that we're having. And I can't say that I've ever walked into a conversation that we've done for this show having disliked a movie and truly loathing it by the end of the conversation, because it just gets me more and more aggravated the more I talk through how absurd it is. And we've watched Rocket Man, okay? No, that movie was dumb, and it is still dumb, but I disliked it at the end of the conversation as much as I disliked it at the start. This is like a record. I am somehow disliking this movie more and more with every second that we talk about it.
I was going to save that for my final review, but look, Sean, you kind of got your What the February here.
Sort of. Not entirely, but sort of.
All right. Well, we've sort of jumped ahead a little bit, but let's get into the cast.
Yeah. All right. Starting with Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. I love you, Mando. And we know that he can handle comedy because he did the Nicolas Cage thing.
Oh, God. He's so good in that. I agree with you. I absolutely love him as an actor. What I had said to you when we first saw this in theaters was that there's a world where I think he would have really made a great Bruce Banner. Unfortunately, he was never going to get cast as Bruce Banner because he didn't have the cachet when Avengers first started that he has now. But there is part of me that feels like they should have reversed them.
Oh,
and
God. Ruffalo would have been so good in this. And you're right. Pedro Pascal would have been so good.
He'd be a great Banner because it's just, it's the brain part of it. And Ruffalo has the emotional capacity where he would have shown that conflict between, being a father and what the pressure that he puts on himself.
Yeah.
There's a world where I think that that's the better choice. It's just, like I said, it was never, ever going to happen because Pedro wasn't a household name when you first launched the Avengers. And instead, we get to see Bruce's emotion with this, are they or aren't they, with Natasha. Like, this would have just been a solve on a lot of counts if they had switched. But here's the thing. I have beaten my head against the wall over the past week trying to think of better casting. And other than John Krasinski, I can't really come up with anything. Not because he blew me away so much, but like, I don't know who else could nail this character other than Ruffalo. And that's not an option, obviously.
It's not an option, and Krasinski wasn't an option because, well, the Krasinski thing, fans were pounding the table for him to be Reed Richards. I think Disney knew they weren't going to cast him, and I think that they gave us Krasinski as a here you go when they knew that they were going to kill that character off in Multiverse of Madness. I mean, as I sit here right now, can I give you a name? No. Like, I'd have
Joaquin
to think
Phoenix.
about it. No. I think he's too old.
That's the only other name I got.
I don't think he... No, I wouldn't go Joaquin Phoenix. I don't think he could do it. It's hard to say because, like, so many of these actors at this point, you sort of, like, you associate them with other superheroes, right? Or they've done other superhero films, or they're in other multiverses or whatever. Like Joel Kinnaman, but Joel Kinnaman was in Suicide Squad. Like, I actually think he would have been really good, but he was in Suicide Squad. What about what the hell, Marina Baccarin's husband, Ben, in
Gotham. Oh my gosh, why can't I think of his name right now? Ben, I always get him because he looks like Scott Speedman, and he's not Scott Speedman. But oh my god,
you know, yes, but you know who I'm talking about, and I
gotta look it up because this is gonna drive me absolutely crazy.
I think he would have been good. You know, because I loved him as, but again, isn't it funny? But you associate him with Gotham, right? But like, he was so good.
Mackenzie.
Yeah, Ben McKenzie. But like, he has the look, he has the smarmy, he's got the charm, but he's got the attitude. Like, I feel like he could have pulled it off. Now, maybe it's because I'm looking at this as casting this as a Reed Richards that I would have wanted to see in 2005, which we did get, who was the better Reed Richards, by the way. I'm trying to think of who else you could cast now, and I'm just not finding it. I'm sure if I sat down and dug through some stuff, I could.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I really thought about this for a week, but I just feel like the person who would have nailed it best is Mark Ruffalo, and he's obviously not an option.
How about Zachary Levi? Because you've seen him do lighthearted and you've seen him do drama.
Yeah, but he's tied in with DC. Or was,
that's right.
At least.
I forgot. Shazam. See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
See, everybody's already in something. That's right. I forgot about Shazam. So did most of the movie-going audience, unfortunately. That's right.
All right. Moving on. Because we could sit here and spin our wheel. I'm telling you, I really put a lot of thought into this, and I'm just, and I don't like that either, because you and I have always prided ourselves on not just saying we don't like it. It's here's what we would like better, or here's, if we had our way, here's the alternative. Like, we always try to offer up another suggestion, and I don't feel like I have a good answer here. But moving on to some of the best casting in this movie, Vanessa Kirby is unbelievable. I mean, first of all, she's a total smoke show. She's absolutely gorgeous. She nails that balance between, I mean, really, she is the mother to 4 children in this movie.
Yeah.
And that comes through clear as day. I think that was intentional. I think it's well done. She is the heart and soul of this film. The entire thing, her back must be broken. If Galactus didn't kill her, snapping her spine did, because she is carrying the weight of these three doofuses.
Yeah, I mean, for the maternal drama of it all, she was great. Yeah, I think she handled it well. I think for the age that they wanted to make this version of these characters, I think they cast her very well. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see them back because I'm excited to see her again. As for the rest of them, it's a little TBD. I mean, I will say that, Joseph Quinn, I think by the end of the movie as Johnny, I think by the end of the movie, I loved him. Like I said, he probably was, for me, the best character in the movie. But it took me some time to get there. And I don't know if it's... There was just something about him that was sort of lacking in the beginning. I don't know. I loved him in Stranger Things. But I don't know. There's something about this is just not. I'm not entirely like jiving with it, and maybe it's because our basis of comparison. And he's insanely talented. I'm not saying that he isn't, but his basis of comparison are Chris Evans and Michael B. Jordan. I mean, it's a pretty stacked crowd when you think about who's played this character previously.
I really questioned this casting choice. Not Stranger Things aside, I think a lot of it too was the bleach blonde hair and the Beatles-esque haircut. I realize it was of the time. It's just not working for him.
It doesn't work
at
right.
all. That said, and that's not his fault. I'm not trying to be critical of the actor's appearance. There were choices that were made by an entire team of people to give him that look, and I don't know why we did it. All that said, he was the biggest surprise in this movie for me. I ate my words after seeing it because he hooked me from the beginning, and I was like, okay, clearly there was just something that I was not seeing. And that was for the best, because for as much as I've called them bozos and doofuses, he's got a great character arc. I mean that in the context of their relationship to Sue, just because she has to do everything for them. But as far as his character arc goes, as far as the way he played it, as far as the way it was written this time around to give him more to do, this was the biggest and best surprise for me.
Yeah. I think that's accurate. I would agree with that too. Eben Moss Backrack plays Ben. And this was a really different version of this character, right? Like, he's sort of insecure, but he never, like, previous iterations, it's not so much that he was insecure so much as it was that he was in a relationship with Deb who did not take very seriously her commitment, or for better or for worse.
Yeah.
To the point where Ben in the first two films ends up with Kerry Washington's character, who plays a blind woman, who, by the way, was not only was she great, but the concept of putting him with a blind woman because she didn't care what he looked like. She only cared about the person that he was. What great symbolism. I mean, like the whole Love is Blind thing, that whole thing worked. I think the fact that you have him here and he's pursuing Rachel, it's a very different version of this character. I liked him. I thought emotionally it worked, that he was trying to be as good a friend as he could be to Reed while sort of dealing with the annoying little brother in Johnny. I think the issue is because you had to channel all of the comedy and all of the lightheartedness through Ben and Johnny, I think that it just didn't do him a service because I feel like his scenes where he otherwise was really good and he did carry the drama well, I feel like they get glossed over because he's just the butt of the joke. To the point where it's like Dick Van Dyke, like he trips and goes down the stairs over the baby gate because, oh, that's funny. I wish that they would have just made the whole movie a little bit more lighthearted.
I actually disagree. I had said earlier, this is, I think, the best version of Ben, not just in the portrayal, because I do like Michael Chiklis, but it's not just in the portrayal, it's in the way that he's written. Because to your point, where Deb totally flakes on him, he just plays it pissed off the entire time. Here, there's such an emotional depth that's written in. There's a little bit of a sadness about him, but there's also the acceptance. And I think that also comes from the incident didn't just happen. He's learned to live with it at this point. But there are still moments where, as much as he has accepted his fate, he still longs for something more. And what's really well done is how they channel that through Rachel, because they have all the accolades. They have the respect of the public. The kids love him. He humors them and does the bit with lifting the car. But then he still, for all the adoration, he still has trouble talking to Rachel. Because no matter how much love is thrown at him from the public, he's never going to get to be fulfilled. And I think that comes through crystal clear. And that's why I can forgive moments like tripping over the baby gate. And the bickering with Johnny is good comedy. But for some of the more physical things that they made him do, I tend to forgive that because you do need to balance out how heavy it is that he's living with this condition. So I actually think he's really well-rounded.
Ralph Ineson plays Galactus. Galactus is so perfectly unsettling. The demeanor, the look. If there's one thing that they nailed almost to 100%, it's Galactus.
Well, it's because he is 100% practical. Obviously, the scope of him, they doctored, but that is the actor in makeup. And I should say, I think that's also why Ben works so well, too, because they did motion capture. So he is physically in the scenes with everyone. And that's why, you try to build as much chemistry as you can with the cast. But yeah, I thought Galactus was incredible. Like I said, that scene where he descends upon Manhattan, that all looks really, really great. And look what happens when you do things practically and you save a little bit of money. You can invest it elsewhere in the CGI. And we didn't mention that too. The CGI looks really good.
Except for Excelsior, the rocket launch in Apollo 13 looks better than Excelsior. But yes, other than that, I would agree. The CGI looks great. And specifically on Julia Garner, who plays the Silver Surfer. I mean, I said it before. She was really good. I like what she brought to it. The gender flip, that was fine. That certainly didn't take away from the character. I understand that you needed her. And the Silver Surfer does become an ally of the Fantastic Four. That's the source material.
Right. That part I knew, actually.
And so I get it, but listening to the cries and screams of 6 planets that she helped destroy, that's what snapped her out of it. She didn't... I understand that she was trying to preserve her own family, but, she didn't think she'd ever hear those things, or she didn't think that those things existed?
No, she didn't, because she bounced out of there. She's never been confronted with it. No, I thought that whole thing was brilliant. Again, I love the casting choice. I think that she was a bright spot in this film. Best character arc, hands down. And she's got to play the role stoic for most of the time, but in those moments where she is confronted with what she's done, she's really tortured by it. Yeah, this is one of those performances where you have to watch it a couple of times and you don't appreciate it until you see how much she's doing with her eyes. Because it's all there. And she doesn't really have a lot of dialogue. But there's so much in her emotion, or that she's emoting, I should say. I don't think this character lands as hard if they didn't cast her.
Final thoughts, I'm going first. This movie's absurd, and it gets more and more absurd with every viewing that I have of it, which is a shame, because I think the costumes and the sets are great, and I think a lot of the props they use look great. I like the time period they put them in, but I've already laundry listed a lot of the issues that I had with the cast, and if I'm being completely honest, as I watch this, I think the only one that did it better than anybody else in previous iterations is Vanessa Kirby. Kate Mara was fine. Jessica Alba was good. I liked it for what it was. I think for that version of that franchise 20 years ago, that's who you got. That's who made sense.
Said the 19-year-old boy who liked Jessica Alba in a movie. What a shock.
But it made sense for that version of the movie.
She was terrible. God, was she terrible.
But other than Vanessa Kirby, like, obviously, I think we've had two better versions of Reed Richards. In terms of The Thing, they're all almost on equal measure. Chickless was so good. I mean, Chickless was good, but it was a lot hokier, but that was the tone of that movie. Johnny, I mean, don't get me, they're all good, but this is, for me, this ranks third. I mean, this version of Reed Richards ranks fourth because we have Krasinski, even though it only lasted for 5 minutes. Yeah, it's, of all of them, unpopular opinion, I don't think this is better than the first one or The Rise of the Silver Surfer. And I'm not exactly sure that it's better than the Miles Teller one, because the Miles Teller one didn't piss me off. It's not great. I don't love that they were as young as they were, but I liked the cast. And I bought the cast as a unit. Did it work? Did it make me mad? No. This movie just annoys me every time I watch it. And every time I watch it, I just find more and more things that are just absurd, where this almost feels like a parody. You could put a laugh track underneath this movie and it would make it better.
Dang. See, that's really interesting because the internet was mad by the Miles Teller one. The internet hates that version.
I mean, it's a complete departure. It's not great. I'm not saying it's great.
But yeah, it's kind of like, whoa, could you do worse? Here's the thing. This was one of those movies that I was really hoping sitting down to talk about it would help me sort through my thoughts. And it did a little bit. I think now I'm less on the fence and I'm leaning more towards one thing. But I've been so up and down and back and forth with it because when we got out of the theater, I really liked it. But I think that was through rose-colored theater goggles. You know, it's a spectacle of a film. It was a great viewing experience. But this is one of those instances where seeing it on the big screen makes it better. You've got this incredible score by Michael Giacchino. which really puts it over the top. So I did like it coming out of it, but I did bump on Pedro.
Yeah.
Still early on as the first viewing. So I was looking forward to the rewatch. I was hoping to get more out of it. And when we watched it the first time to prep for the show, I remember just thinking, this movie is exhausting to watch as a woman. And I'm not trying to like get up on some feminist soapbox, but the amount of peril that they put Sue in during her pregnancy, and then to see that she's constantly having to clean up the mess and save these guys, it is just exhausting to watch. So it kind of lost me at that point. And then I watched the other three to give me more context going into taking my notes. And I figured surely in 20 years, we will have come so far and it will have evolved and it will be so much better. But I just feel like this is one of those franchises that they can't necessarily nail, which is really upsetting to say because the production design is so incredible. And I really don't want to gloss over the artists who created the sets and because they were done practically and they built Manhattan on a back lot and it looks absolutely incredible. They nailed the era that they're trying to portray with the 60s, but also giving it that future vibe. It all looks incredible. The costuming is amazing. The hair, save for Johnny, it is great. Like I love Vanessa Kirby's hair throughout. The CGI looks really, really awesome, which is not something that we say about Marvel very often. I shouldn't say Marvel. It's something that we've not said about Disney very often recently. So I really came into this when we sat down to record completely on the fence, hoping that I would sort of be able to untangle my feelings about it and come out on the other side going, well, you know what? Maybe it's better than I thought. I don't think it is. How could I say that after the conversation that we just had? We kind of ripped it apart quite a bit. So I guess we'll just leave it at that. Not my favorite Marvel, not one that I'm going to rewatch often, but I would revisit down the line just because of the production design being so great.
So when compared to the other three Fantastic Four movies...
Oh, you're going to do me dirty like that now. Are you asking me to rank them?
Yeah, sure. See, and you can't even put this one at the top off the rip. You have to think about it.
No, I can't. No, because honestly, for where I get exhausted over Sue having to do everything in this one, I am equally exhausted over the treatment of Sue in the Jessica Alba version because she's really just a piece of meat, you know? Like, there's no depth to the character. Honestly, my initial thought after seeing that one immediately was, thank God we didn't burn ScarJo on this franchise and we got her instead as Black Widow, because you would have wasted the talent. Jessica Alba, not the best actress, but they didn't do her any favors because she's just written so poorly. She's literally there she plays every trope of every annoying girlfriend, nagging fiance, she ends up naked all the time. They put that girl through the ringer and it wasn't fair. And for those reasons, because of the womanizing, really, that one falls to the bottom for me. Then I'm exhausted with this one. So I guess by default, the one that everyone else hates is the one that I like best. But it's got Michael B. Jordan, so that was going to win anyway.
We want to know what you have to say about the Fantastic Four First Steps. You can let us know on all forms of social media at Monoreel Radio, or you can send us an email, monoreelradio@gmail.com. News of the week is coming up, but first a quick break. Jackie is an independent travel advisor helping families plan personalized vacations and create unforgettable memories in the most magical place on Earth. Planning for a Disney vacation can be stressful, but it doesn't need to be when you're assisted by a travel specialist who will work with you to customize the perfect vacation for you and your family. Jackie will help you determine which parks to visit on each day, ensure you know the ins and outs of essential tools like the My Disney Experience app, assist with booking dining reservations, lightning lanes, and other enhancements like ground transportation and travel insurance. Most importantly, Jackie will share all of her favorite hacks so that you can get the most out of your vacation. Visit monoreelradio.com/travel to start making magic now.
Hey everyone, this is Brian down here in South Florida. I'm about 2 hours south of Disney, and when it comes to planning vacations, Jackie's the way to go. When it came to booking my family vacation for my 2-year-old daughter and my wife, like everybody, I immediately went to the internet, started scouting prices. Just out of curiosity, I reached out to Jackie. She mentioned she was booking vacations for many people. So I gave her my list, my itinerary. She looked it over, and when she came back to me, she gave me her recommendations in regards to the parks. However, she also had new pricing associated with it. I've learned that going on my own doesn't necessarily mean that I'll be getting the best pricing. On top of that, it was stress-free. So all my vacations in the future are going to be through her because I don't have to think about it. She plans it. I give her some information in regards to what I want to do and create the itinerary for me. She's a market expert. She advised on which rides to attack first, which restaurants I should schedule on what day, and how to properly allocate my time to maximize my vacation. It was an amazing process. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
Seismic news. Absolutely seismic news, which we all sort of expected. But it's just different hearing it out loud.
Yeah, seismic, but not shocking. I was just kind of like, finally.
Josh D'Amaro is taking over from Bob Iger as the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Your Great Big Beautiful D'Amaro starts on March 18th of 2026.
I also have to say I'm very happy that Dana Walden did not get overlooked because she's not going to step into his role per se, but she's going to be chief creative officer. So it's kind of going to be a dual role, which I think is really smart. We haven't seen this done in a while. I think this is actually going to be the best yin and yang since Frank Wells and Eisner.
Yeah,
we needed this.
We did need it. I think you needed somebody at the helm that had a positive public perception. Josh D'Amaro obviously does. I mean, you'd be hard-pressed at this point, and I'm not saying this to rub it into anybody's face because we're Disney Park locals. However, you'd be hard-pressed to find a Disney Park local who hasn't met Josh D'Amaro, run into Josh D'Amaro, seen him in the parks, said hello. I mean, we've seen him out a few times. We've seen him out a number of times, actually. We've been in bars and lounges where he's just walked in the door. We've been walking around Disney Springs, and he just walks by you.
Let me tell you what a gem of a human he is, okay? This was 2021, I believe, or it might have still been 20. We were still wearing masks. And we were sitting, no, it was 21. It was our last vacation. We did the Monorail bar crawl.
Yes.
Our friends joined us. We were at our last stop at the Enchanted Rose.
That's right.
So we had quite a few.
Yep.
And we saw him walking by, and myself and a friend who shall remain nameless to protect her identity literally chased him through the lobby. I wouldn't have done that sober, but I had a little bit of liquid courage in me. He could not have been nicer. And he knew we had a few. He clearly knew that we had a few. And he was just so cool. He was very nice. He didn't have to be nice because he could have been like, these two knuckleheads, I don't want any part of this, but he still stopped and talked to us. So that was very nice.
I think that's why it was important to get him into this role, because he obviously has done a lot of really good things with the parks. He is a person that has a positive reputation. He is somebody that was and still is wildly approachable. And I think that, unfortunately for Bob Iger, we mentioned it on the show recently. I called it was like a WWE heel turn. He came back to save us from Chapek, and I mean, comparatively, he's not bad, but he's not the same Bob Iger that he was prior to his first retirement. So, I don't think you could have risked doing something like that again. I think Josh D'Amaro is a guy that can do a lot of great things. My understanding is that it seems like he wants to do a lot of things specifically in the parks that they used to do. I'm not saying that means the Magical Express is coming back, but that doesn't mean it's not. I feel like he recognized specifically with the parks where things needed to revert back to some old systems, and he was not given the opportunity to make those decisions.
Bingo.
Now that he's going to be the man, I think you're going to see a lot of change. I think it's going to lead to a better guest experience. And I think that there is a renewed enthusiasm for what is yet to come, a broad scope across the entire company.
You just hit it right on the head. I think that he is so concerned with guest experience because he is the parks guy, right? I don't think that he's gotten so far removed from his humble beginnings where he forgets what the guest experience is like. I think he definitely pays attention. I can confirm he pays attention online more than probably anybody thinks. So I think that that's certainly what you need to bring to the table in this role. And I completely agree with you. I think that there's a lot that he's been wanting to do or tried to do, and he's been handcuffed by the budget or told by a superior, no, we can't do that. So I think this is a refreshing change. I think this is the change that we need. And my hope and my plea is that everyone just lets him do it. Let him breathe for a little bit. Don't hit he better this, or he better not touch that, or he bring this back. Just give him a chance. Give him a fair shake. He's inheriting a lot. I don't want to say that he's inheriting a mess, but he's not inheriting peak Disney. This was not the baton pass from Eisner to Iger. That was much cleaner, and I dare say wrapped up in a nice big bow, because they were just at the top of their game. It's not going to be so easy right away. So I just hope that he gets a fair shake without a lot of backlash, and he can just kind of do his thing, because I feel like this is going to be the course correct that we were hoping for after the pandemic and never really got.
Thank you so much for joining us this and every week on Monoreel Radio. Monoreel Radio will always be free, but there are many ways that you can support the show. Please give us a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Join the conversation on social media at Monoreel Radio on all major platforms. Share your favorite episodes with family and friends who may enjoy them. And of course, book your next trip with Jackie. Links to everything can be found at monoreelradio.com. We all get one story. Make yours a magical one.
On behalf of Monoreel Radio, we'd like to thank you for joining us. We'll see you at the movies, the stuff dreams are made of.